Listen, right now you could be only a few clicks away from experiencing something amazing, something that has changed thousands of lives all over the world. I'm talking about a high consciousness field similar to those at pilgrimage sites and sacred places. It's where people go to heal, to connect, and to become the best possible version of themselves. With FLFE, you can bring such a high consciousness field into your home right now. It's a spiritual quantum technology based on the work of Nikola Tesla. Better sleep, more energy, greater well-being, improved finances, electrosmog mitigation. These are only some of the things people on the FLFE service are experiencing. Try it now for 15 days completely free of charge, no credit card needed. Just click on a link down below to start your free, no strings attached FLFE trial right now.
If you want, which is what they do want, a world government, a world central bank, a world army, an amalgamation of NATO and the UN peacekeeping operation, a world currency, electronic, no cash, and a microchip population, then what you've got to do, and this is the way they work, a process I call problem, reaction, solution, you've got to keep creating the problems, get the people to react, do something in fear and outrage, all of what's happening, what they're going to do about it, and then they, who've covertly created the problem, offer the solutions to the problems they've created, which is the constant centralization of power. That's what all the solutions are.
Hey, Inspired Tribe, my fellow freedom lovers. It's John Nolan here. Thank you so much for tuning in. It is Friday, June 21st, 2024. This is the longest day of the year. Happy summer solstice. And we're healthy. We're wealthy. We're whole. We're free. As we are on this crazy ride, on this unbelievable ride. I want to welcome you all on Rumble, on YouTube, in the live chat here. I see our wonderful friends, JPB. I see Opeth Divinity. Rob, good to see you, my friend. J-Frog, Annie. Thank you so much for the contribution. Mike, really, really appreciated. Günther is here, I think from Austria, Germany. Raymond is here. Bongo Bud Connor, CJ, some new names too. T-Web, Cheryl, Sean, David, welcome. Tammy, not a new name at all. Good to see you. Kika, Marco, wonderful friends. Thank you again. Let's dive into it. Pretty much, for those who've been in the subject, this little clip by David Icke sums it all up. It really, in just 50 seconds, explains exactly what is happening, what we're in, and what kind of world is they want to create by 2030. Now, there's this very specific reason why I believe we need to talk about this in more detail and better ways. I do not, this sort of, for us, it's almost like an echo chamber. You, for the most part, know these things. We know these things, but there are so many people out there who know part of it or who think they know part of it, but they don't see the full picture. And that's why the problem, reaction, solution scenario that these power players always play out continues to work somewhat. Now, people are sort of becoming wise to the political game, and now a lot of people that used to be sort of closer to the left, they've moved over to the right, but that is all the ping pong game that they're playing. What we need to comprehend together, and that's what we're going to go through and make clear, is that we know there is that's the first very important conclusion. There are very concrete goals to be achieved by the year 2030. I don't think, even if they had their way, they would get them all done by then, but that's what they want. There are very concrete goals. Then we need to make clear that we know what these goals are and who is a part of it. If we don't understand that, all of our actions, everything that we do, will be in vain. And we wish to create these videos and these shows for people to watch later and to share with others who might not have seen this yet, who might not know this yet completely. So let's look at the 2030 goals in some very simple bullet points. And as we go through them, I will let you know where these goals are coming from, and that these are not theories and these are not ideas, but these are concrete goals expressed by the organizations, the governments, the non-government organizations, and the leaders that are in powerful positions today. The overall concrete goal for the 2030 goals is centralized global control, the establishment of a totalitarian world government or governance structure that supersedes national sovereignty. This would involve centralized control over political, economic, and social systems worldwide. We can find these goals in all of the unions and the pacts. In the European Union is clearly an organization that has that goal to supersede national sovereignty and to eventually eliminate national sovereignty, which they have practically already done by prioritizing EU laws and the unofficial EU constitution over the national government's constitutions and laws. It is a little more difficult for people to understand how something like this might happen in America, but it is already happening. You have international bodies, International Monetary Fund, for example. You have international financial bodies that set standards that apply to the United States. We now have updated health regulations set by the World Health Organization, an unelected, really, organization by the people, I mean, that has its headquarters in Geneva, Switzerland, that now dictates to a very large degree the health regulations and, by extension, political decisions and lawmaking decisions in the United States and the other 194 member nations. So this is already happening. The idea, and people have, because we need to talk about this in a meaningful way. So the people know this as the new world order, and it has been, it has been sort of so overused that a lot of people don't talk about the new world order anymore. But it is still the same goal. Basically, in the Hunger Games, the movies or the books, if you've read or seen the movies, it's pretty much laid out that you have a world that isn't defined by nations any longer, or borders, national sovereignty and borders, but there are zones. There are zones over the world that have their regional government, which all answers to a world government. And we are not too far away from having this realized out in the open. However, the people that want to bring this about, they know that they can't simply introduce something like that. So they follow this formula that David Icke has beautifully laid out over many, many years and decades, which is the problems reaction solution formula, which is just another form of Hegelian dialectic, where you have one side, then you have another side, and that brings the solution that you want. So we need to understand that what is unfolding in mainstream life today, the solution, the desired solution, are the goals that we're laying out here. These are the desired solution by the world's institutions today. They know that the people, under normal circumstances, would never go for this. They don't want this. They want national governments. They want national sovereignty. But if the problems, or if problems can be created that are big enough, that are painful enough, then people will accept it. And this is what, very influential people like Henry Kissinger said over and over and over again. They said, if you create a crisis big enough, the people will accept almost any solution as long as it gives them relief. Okay. So centralized global control is the overarching goal. And people might say they already have it, but not in the way that they want it. We might be free range slaves, but you can't imagine the way that they imagine this. This is why we're laying it out. Thank you, Charlotte. Really appreciate it. All right, let's move forward. Population control, which is, of course, a cornerstone. Even if we don't believe the current official numbers of 9 billion or 8 billion people on planet, even if it's 6 or 5 billion, I mean, we don't know, but they know that they will never be able to fully control such a large population, nor is the extreme power, technology, and manpower desired to control such a large population. That's why in recent years, especially in recent years, there have been accelerated efforts to bring down the population and to limit reproduction. So, how would this work as implementation of policies and technologies to control and reduce the global population? This might include methods such as mass sterilization, mass health events, and other means to limit population growth. Coincidentally, oftentimes accidental byproducts of health initiatives in the third world. Think of the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, when they go all over the world and they do their health initiatives and make sure that everybody is protected against all the diseases. Proven in courts, it has been that sometimes accidental byproducts of such mass health initiatives are mass sterilizations, right? If you know anything about the, uh, the medical care on the reservations in the United States, this has been for many, many years an open secret. They would provide not just abortion services on the reservations, but they would unknowingly to the person that was getting an abortion also provide a hysterectomy, and so make him, basically rob them of their opportunity to ever have children. This is happening on today much more subtle levels because you don't need an operation any longer for that. Even the ignorant Western medicine now understands it can be done much easier, and it is done much easier. Official sperm counts have gone down significantly. Miscarriage rates have gone up incredibly. Pair this with a almost fashion-like um, propaganda that it's almost unfashionable today for a woman to not have had an abortion. It's like that's become such a normal thing, right? So you pair that with a culture that pushes couples and women and men into lifestyles without children. You pair that with the extreme manipulation through foods and even the air and water of our biochemistry and our hormones. So there are hundreds, if not thousands, of methods that this goal is being achieved. It is clearly not done in one way because it would be too obvious. But if you study, all you have to do is study these fields, study food, study water, um, study technology and what it does, study EMF and what it does. If you look at the big picture, study certain medical interventions. If you look at the big picture, you will see that this is exactly what's being done. Now, you pair that again with official statements and documents that clearly say UN Agenda 2030, WEF, and all the other organizations, even the Bank for International Settlements and the IMF and the World Bank, they're all saying the same thing. We need to reduce, they call it population growth because they don't want to openly say we need to reduce the population. And so they are giving a false image that our world, the way that it is right now, could not sustain our population, which is not true at all. maybe not in a way that we're doing it now, but it certainly could and can. Absolutely. Of course, it's never their family members who are supposed to be reduced. It's the peasants, right? And I don't mean to be cynical, but this is all derived from official documents and statements, and it is trickled down to the spiritual leaders, where you have a supposed spiritual guru like Sadhguru, who's reaching millions and millions and millions of people all over the world. People look up to him, who has said openly he is all for population reduction. So, this is trickling down into the culture, of course. Technological surveillance. This all goes hand in hand. None of these goals exist isolated from each other. They're all connected. Utilization of advanced surveillance technologies to monitor and track individuals' activities and behaviors on a global scale. This involves technologies such as the Internet of Things, the Internet of Nanobio Things, or the Internet of Everything. And this is what we have started really discussing more and more is, again, if you wish, and I'm going to give you the principle, we're going to talk about the details in another show, but if you wish to have total control over this realm, then they figured, well, we need to have everything in a network. It's not enough to just have devices connected to the internet. It's not enough to have the smartphones and the computers and the refrigerators and the cars and everything connected. We need to have biological life connected to the network as well. And as a matter of fact, we need to power the entire network with that biological life, which is electrical life. We're electrical beings. So they have developed technologies, or have been given technologies. What do we know? That can turn, or can connect all biological life to the network, to the internet, including humans, plants, even rocks, the soil, trees, bugs, all other animals. Literally, a complete digital grid, the internet of everything. This is as crazy as this sounds. If you haven't paid much attention to this, if technology is just something that doesn't interest you beyond what you're using on a daily level, this sounds so dystopian and so crazy. But what I'm telling you right now is all derived from official documents. Once again, by the agencies and corporations that's all they do: develop incredibly sophisticated technologies and networks on an industrial scale. And this is the important piece here: on an industrial scale. So you talk about things like smart dust. Maybe you've heard of it. Nanotechnology that is invisible to the human eye, that could be dispersed. Let's just say, crazy theory, could be dispersed by planes spraying it in the air. This nanotechnology could then, because it is so tiny, be ingested or even enter the body through the skin. Same with animals and trees. It could self-replicate within a biological body, and it could connect to the greater network and power itself through the biology, because we have electric bodies, and that could power that nanotechnology into smart dust that is self-replicating, creating a network that communicates with everything else. Now, if this sounds crazy or dystopian, it's not, and it's a reality. It is not just a possibility, it is a reality. The technological goal is way beyond asking you, hey, do you want a brain chip? Asking you, hey, do you want to be part of do you want to have a smart implant? No, no, no. It is to create a network of everything that is on Earth, and doing it through so many means and so many different avenues that people simply don't realize that it's already happened to a large degree and continues to happen, which is the foundational element of a controlled society. Is you have to have the technological means to literally turn on and off things, beings, biology. And of course, we have understood to a certain degree the manipulation of our environment through weather modification, and geoengineering. But now imagine that the entire structure is uploaded into the cloud. So now you could literally have someone sitting there on an invisible, on these air screens, and move around clouds, move around systems, and create patterns that this screen, this invisible screen, communicates with all things on Earth, including clouds and weather and soil and water and everything. And imagine that you type a prompt into a computer, and that prompt creates a weather pattern, or it creates a biological event, or it creates whatever. I mean, this is the kind of dystopian, excuse me, craziness that we're dealing with. But this is what these people are constantly working on. This is how they think. It's incredible to the natural, if you will, human mind and spirit, but this is literally what they're doing. A one world currency. Creation of a single digital global currency and financial system to replace existing national currencies. This would centralize economic power and control over monetary policies. We all know this is ongoing. We all know that the world has been introduced to cryptocurrency and digital currencies over the last almost 2 decades now, or 15 years at least, and that people have begun investing and using it, and the blockchain, and that all these systems were sort of a soft introduction to the world of digital currencies. And the idea is that you could even have a one world digital currency that would simply be called something different in various regions of the world, so it would be more familiar to the language, right? But in the background, it would still all connect to the same one currency. Now, the arguments for a digital currency, a central bank digital currency, have always been the biggest, that they would be able to eliminate crime with it. But they also always said it would be anonymous, so nobody would know what you're using it for and how you're using it, which is in and of itself an oxymoron. It's a paradox, because if you want to create officially a digital currency to prevent crime from happening, because then you can't pay the cartels in cash, and you can't buy weapons with cash, and human trafficking. But that would only make sense if transactions weren't anonymous. If they are anonymous, then you have the same system, only digital, and that wouldn't make any sense, which clearly shows us that the idea is to have complete control over our purchases, over everything, and that these digital currencies, as opposed to the bills that you pull out of your wallet, those bills, you can use them whichever way you want. You have $20 in your wallet, you go to the gas station, you go to the movies, you go to the grocery store, and you can purchase whatever you want for those $20. But if you have a digital currency, that digital currency is programmable, which means that $20 don't equal $20. It's $20 for specific purposes. Beyond those purposes, you can't purchase. Let's say you wanted to purchase ammunition. Because you've already exceeded your yearly quota of 300 rounds. Let's say you wanted to purchase, I don't know, a bottle of scotch. No. You've already exceeded your yearly quota of alcohol. Let's say you wanted to travel. Oh no, your carbon footprint is already too high. We can't allow you to travel. So this money won't buy you tickets or won't buy you a hotel room. This is literally, again, I am not saying this because we were sitting in a dark room and coming up with these scenarios. It's from reading documents by the European Central Bank. It's from reading documents by the Federal Reserve. It's from reading documents by the World Bank and by the national and international financial organizations that are working on this. And they're not working on this because it's done. What they're doing is working on selling it to the public. None of total control has to include controlling the flow of money 100%. Because in our society, money equals freedom. It's as simple as that. Money equals freedom. So you have to control money if you do not wish for people to be free. Okay. Microchipping and control. And this is where we are. Microchipping, I believe, has it's sort of an outdated term, but for a lot of people, it's easier to understand the concept, which we talked about a little earlier. Introduction of mandatory microchipping or implementation of individuals for purposes of identification, surveillance, and control. This concept is often linked to concerns about loss of freedom and privacy. No shit. So microchipping was sort of the 80s, 70s, 90s science fiction model where you get a chip implanted somewhere under your skin, and that is your connection, how they can control you. As I've just explained earlier with smart dust and the gels and the medicals, the possibilities are almost endless today with nanotechnology on how that would happen. But on a little less invasive scale, I flew from Nashville to Austin a few weeks ago. So it was travel within the same country. If I had jumped into my truck, it would have taken me 10 hours to drive there. And aside from cameras that would have picked up my movements, nobody would have been the wiser. But so because I flew with a plane, I was asked, I didn't do it, but I was asked to do facial recognition. I didn't want to. I was asked to go through a highly harmful, toxic X-ray machine to be X-rayed. Basically, the entire airport is equipped with those AI cameras that we talked about that they do facial recognition, they can do emotion reading and whatnot. This is already possible. I've told you yesterday that these cameras can literally look through walls now, that they can literally pick up heartbeats. It's incredible what is possible. So again, if you want to control, you need to be able to actually exercise that control physically as well. And the first thing that they do is make sure that they have access. So they need to create that access. I would say I would go out on a limb after having done all of my research. I would go out on a limb and say that more people than not are already connected and have been for much longer than we thought. It is simply that the infrastructure wasn't on the scale yet to utilize it. So just like with everything else, first you have a technological breakthrough, you invent something. And then people go, oh, wow, the world's going to change in a year. No, it takes usually 10, 15, maybe 20 years to create the industrial scale infrastructure for a new technology to be fully implementable. So whatever was in here in these things, in these smartphones, when it was first developed here on Earth, when it was first developed, it cost astronomical amounts of money. And to reproduce that technology cost an incredible amount of money until you build the infrastructure, until you build the awareness, and until you build the demand, right? That's why things take longer, because everything is economized. So we first need to create the infrastructure. And this is what has happened with these invasive, intrusive, controlling technologies. They have been available and around for much longer, and we have been experimented on for much longer, but now it is coming to this industrial scale. That's why all the huge developments, all the infrastructure investments, all the technology investments, because they want this by 2030 and they need the infrastructure in place. So it's cheap and it can be used everywhere, right? Not just what is in our bodies, but how to control that, how to measure that, how to access that. That is what is currently happening. Everything is being connected, and this system is being put into place to be operational by 2030, the latest. Cultural homogenization. And this is what so many people have actually seen the most: promotion of a uniform global culture and belief system that aligns with the goals and values of the elites. This might involve censorship, propaganda, and manipulation of information to shape public perception. This is what you could look at in the last few years: the advent of woke, the centralization of the LGBTQ, all the other letters that are in their culture, which is this, it's the central focal point of everything in our culture today. Everything is under the false rainbow color. Everything caters to that. Everything is uh, honed in on that because it is their version of merging and melting and removing all of the cultures by mandating this to be the focal point of everything, right? And they know if they push hard enough and if the people consume enough of it and if they walk over enough rainbow crosswalks, and if they're being, you know, um if they're being manipulated enough into complying with all of the demands, then they will ultimately, just through sheer exhaustion, stop resisting and accepting that that is the culture of the day. And this is a culture that has no national identity. It is a culture that has no geographical roots. It is the artificial globalist culture that knows no gender, that knows no families, that knows no natural procreation, that has no resistance to technology because technology is being so openly used to alter the body and the genders and whatnot. It is the new religion. And in some time, the term woke will disappear because it's been successfully, um, debunked clearly, and something will come in its place. It will get a good name that will represent the new culture. Attached to that new culture very, very soon will be a religious like belief system. This is what this new culture is based on: the cyborg, genderless, uh, Homo roboticus. And none of this, see, it appears that the religion that will take over, pretty much of most of the Western world, is Islam. That is the false assumption. All religions are currently being played against each other. Whatever you believe about those religions, whatever, it doesn't really matter. Christianity has been, and the current model of Christianity has been under attack for so long. This current conflict that we're seeing play out is about destroying Zionism and Islam, really, by playing them against each other. And ultimately, none of the current religions will remain intact, for better or worse. I'm just saying this is the plan. I'm not saying that every step of their plan um, is all, that every 100% of it is all bad. Some of these elements, like I always say in these 15-minute cities, I would love more green spaces in cities, more trees. Sure, who wouldn't? So, but we have to be very, very nuanced about these things and how they're happening. I have seen this in the European countries. They have very distinct national cultures because countries are separated by mountains and mountain ranges, and so you have these distinct cultures even within countries. Folklore, dances, songs, stories, traditions, attire. It was all, so the true meaning of those cultures in many places has been deleted from people's perception. and what they're left with is the empty shells. It's, yeah, sure, they still wear the attire on certain dates. They still sometimes sing a song, but they've forgotten the meaning, the roots, the traditions of all of it, because uh, Europe, just like the United States, has become a melting pot. And these weren't natural migration streams. These weren't natural developments. These were all artificial developments to annihilate cultures, to end them once and for all. And all the traditions that come with it, and the wisdom and the knowledge, and so forth. So this is um what we're looking at here. So I want to and I've mentioned this yesterday, but I want to read to you the most important parts of a article that was released by Ida Auken, a member of the Danish parliament. I don't know if she still is, but she's a prominent World Economic Forum member. And this has sort of been the blueprint that the World Economic Forum has put out in 2016, a vision for 2030. Now, you might say it's just an article, it's just one person. No, this is exactly what the organization stands for. This is exactly what their members that are sitting in all of our governments, the young global leaders, the Justin Trudeau's, and so much of the current administration in the United States, in the European countries, almost all leaders are World Economic Forum young global leaders. So this is how they've been educated and indoctrinated, and this is their vision. Let's go through it. This was an article written in 2016. Welcome to the year 2030. Welcome to my city, or should I say our city. I don't own anything. I don't own a car. I don't own a house. I don't own any appliances or any clothes. In our city, we don't pay any rent, because whenever we do not need it, because someone else is using our free space whenever we do not need it. My living room is used for business meetings when I'm not there. Well, what the fuck? Do you want your living room to be used by somebody else when you're not there? Because I sure as heck don't. I I have very specific protections against such a scenario. Okay. Once in a while, I will choose to cook for myself. It is easy. The necessary kitchen equipment is delivered at my door within minutes. Since transport became free, we stopped having all those things stuffed into our home. Why keep a pasta maker and a crepe cooker crammed into our cupboards? We can just order them whenever we need them. Environmental problems seem far away since we only use clean energy and clean production methods. The air is clean, the water is clean, and nobody would dare to touch the protected areas of nature because they constitute such value to our well being. This is one of the biggest, you might read over it, but this is one of the biggest giveaways. Protected areas of nature. This is exactly one of the key components of their vision. They're building monumental, uh, brutal city projects. They have this in I believe in Saudi Arabia. I forgot if it's called the Mile or if it's called the Wall or whatever it's called. It's this huge project that in the middle of the desert, they have this elongated city-like structure where you can't go outside of it. You're in the within the concrete walls, and everything is in there. All every the water, the food is grown and water is recycled, and you have shopping and all your stuff in there. But the key element is here: the protected areas of nature. What they want to establish, and this is how they're using everything else to control people, is to ban ban the use of nature for peasants outside of certain designated areas, which means they don't want to allow people to be in nature any longer. Aside from the artificial natural environments that they create in the cities, they don't want people out in the woods. They don't want them out on the lakes. They don't want them out on the ocean. They want to have that protected and very, very limited access. I guess the wannabe elite simply got tired of their beautiful places being crowded by the peasants. But this is what this actually means. Really, really important. In the cities, we have plenty of green space and plants and trees all over. I still do not understand why in the past we filled all free spots in the city with concrete. Again, this is something I totally agree with. This should have always been the case, of course. So, uh, consider me a fan of more green spaces in cities. Absolutely. Shopping, I can't really remember what that is. For most of us, it has been turned into choosing things to use. Sometimes I find this fun, and sometimes I just want the algorithm to do it for me. It knows my taste better than I do by now. I just want the algorithm to do it for me. It knows my taste better than I do by now. We are in we're in the thick of this already. There are so many apps, so many applications and software and websites that are dedicated and services to exactly this. So an app tells you when you should move, when you shouldn't move, when you should eat, when you shouldn't eat, what you should eat, and people just fall for that. I mean, they lose their natural abilities to feel their bodies, but they don't just lose it. Their natural abilities to feel their bodies are being uh, deactivated through technology. I'm not kidding you. This is what we're going to get into. You are losing your abilities to feel yourself and feel your needs and feel your intuition because technology is disabling you from feeling that. And that's how they replace it. That's how they will let an app tell you what you should eat, where you should go, when you should be there, when you shouldn't work, what how long you should work, how long you should sleep. It will turn the lights off for you so you can go to sleep at 9 p.m. when it deems it's the right time for you. This is exactly the kind of world that they want. An algorithm knows you better. It knows better what is good for you. Pardon my French, but fuck that shit. You can shove your algorithms up your asses. Sick psychopaths. I don't even know. I don't even have words for it. Okay. When AI and robots took over so much of our work, we suddenly had time to eat well, sleep well, and spend time with other people. The concept of rush hour makes no sense anymore since the work that we do can be done at any time. I don't really know if I would call it work anymore. It is more like thinking time, creation time, and development time. So here we go into something, a concept that I believe is at least worth exploring. Um, we have been pushed into a slavery system where our entire existence, for the most part, everything's directed at being productive in society and creating income so you can buy all the stuffs that have been taken away from you naturally so you can trade the paper or the money that you make for those things. Um, so the idea that a lot of people could be freed from this horrific cycle is a good one. However, I believe it is the prison that we need to remove from our minds. It isn't that technology will be the answer. Maybe, just maybe, we have gotten so attached to things and the possession of things and the need for possessing a million things that we're willing to trade our lifetime and our joy simply for money. So this is something that needs to heal within us. It's not that technology will heal us from it. We will need to heal and realize what is significant, what is important, and what isn't. My biggest concern, Ida Auken writes, member of the World Economic Forum, my biggest concern is all the people who do not live in our city. Those we lost on the way. Those who decided that it became too much, all this technology. Raise your hand if that's you. Those who felt obsolete and useless. No. When robots and AI took over big parts of our jobs. Hell no. Humans, the human spirit will never be obsolete and useless. It will be the most desired thing in the world. I can tell you, if this were to come to pass, disillusioned people will search the world over for pure humans, and they'll want to touch them and hug them and talk to them and get their point of view and try to feel their soul and see what it was that they lost. This is what will be the most valuable thing, a human being that is still pure and capable of thinking and feeling and expressing and intuiting and all those things that make us human, that to be creative. If you remain that and you can remain, you know, mostly intact and find a way to shield yourself from all the technology bullshit, you'll be the most valuable thing. You'll probably be able to charge exorbitant amounts of money just for someone to spend a day with you. Those who got upset with the political system and turned against it, they live different kind of lives outside of the city. Some have formed little self-supplying communities. Others just stayed in the empty and abandoned houses in small 19th century villages. So sort of the people who didn't, that would be me, us, I don't know how many of you, but that would be us. The people who didn't fall for the dystopian AI takeover, they're sort of being described here as, they're simpletons. They didn't get it. They just wanted to live like Stone Age people, like Neanderthals, basically. Once in a while, she writes, I get annoyed about the fact that I have no real privacy. Nowhere I can go and not be registered. I know that somewhere everything I do, think, and dream of is recorded. I just hope that nobody will use it against me. So this, in a nutshell, this little paragraph here is literally what drives the majority of us, is to deal the hill that we're willing to die on. It's why we stand so strongly. And this she describes as, sometimes it's a nuisance, sometimes it's a little annoying to know that I don't have privacy, that I am basically made of glass, that everything I think, I dream of, I fear, I worry about is recorded and hopefully will not be used against me. By whom? If nobody owns anything in your dystopian world, if everybody is supposedly equal, who would use it against you? Did you just give us a hint that there actually is a self-proclaimed elite that will use it against you if necessary? Have you just told us, dear Ida, that this is not the utopian kumbaya, we're all the same kind of world, but that psychopaths, empathy-deleted psychopaths, are actually able to use things against you because they sit somewhere in dark places and register everything you think. They measure your every metric in your body, everything. And they know if you're stressed, if you're angry, if you're hungry, if you're horny, if you're whatever. They know it all. And maybe if you think too critically about them, they'll use it against you. Hell yeah, I'll live in a 19th century village. Yeah, I'll chop wood and carry water. Fuck this. This is so insane. And these dots, although they're all out there, are not being connected by so many people. So many people don't understand that what we are observing is this vision being rolled out for the entire world. Nobody voted on it. Nobody was asked. But this is really what's unfolding. And it is what makes me so passionate, what makes me want to find the crux of the problem. I know we broke the code on the human problem. We now know why humans are susceptible to this. We talked about this a few shows back. We talk about it all the time in our inspired community on Locals. It is trauma. When humans are traumatized and forget who they are and live in the fear and in the avoidance of pain, They're susceptible to all kinds of unnatural ways and ideas and whatnot. Trauma is a instrument that is being used on purpose against humans because it is the prerequisite. Non-traumatized humans or healed humans will never comply with that bullshit. And if they do, they don't have a brain. It's as simple as that. Non-traumatized humans will not comply with this. Traumatized humans most likely will. Multi-generationally traumatized humans almost certainly will. So the human element, we have the answer. Healing is the beginning step to free yourself from this madness. It's healing. But then we have this incredibly sophisticated technology that we're just beginning to put the pieces together here, most of which is unseen, hidden. It's in all places, and we don't understand fully yet how it interacts with our biology, how it manipulates our biology, and how we can stop it from doing that. This is why we're so deep into these subjects and research, because we need to solve that problem. And for that, we need to first identify it and crystallize it so we really know what we're dealing with. This is why this work, in my opinion, is so important. Because only when we truly comprehend on all level what is happening to us and around us, if we remember, and then if we remember who we really are, that's where solutions can be created. All other solutions are just, they are just hitting on the tip of the iceberg. And there are wonderful people out there that have half the answer. But half-assed, nothing that's half-assed works. So that's why we need to get so deep. That's why we need to truly understand what's been done to us on all levels, or we will never get out of it. So these are concrete goals in development, in action. They're not fully realized yet. Otherwise, I couldn't even speak to you any longer. But they are in the process of being realized. The opposition is growing. But the opposition doesn't have sufficient understanding yet of how it's happening. And so they're still waiting for the next election. They're still letting years pass them by of inactivity, of non-sufficient lifestyle changes, non-sufficient changes overall. They're waiting for the next election to hopefully vote in the person that might make things better. But here's the thing. Most of the people that are being voted in, that are being selected for you, don't understand what's happening on that level. And if they do, they're usually a part of it. And they have no desire of changing it. The entire world is marching in this direction. And it is sort of like this same old mantra. It's just inevitable. If we don't do it, they will do it. So we have to do it first, right? If we don't become the AI superpower of the world, then China will, Russia will, India will, whatever, and we lose. That's how they sell this wet dystopian dream to everyone. We just have to. At this point, there's no other option. And as a real, true human being with an intact spirit, I cannot accept this bullshit. I can't accept this to be true. There are asymmetrical exponential solutions that can only be born from a healed and fully actualized human being connected to spirit. Those solutions we're on the verge of grasping them. So this work to me is what is essential, because we don't have decades. They want the majority of their goals realized by 2030. That's 5.5 years. That's nothing. And they've always used a problem, reaction, solution playbook. So now you know what the solution is. The solution is their goal. Now imagine every time that a new crisis comes around, every time that a new war happens or a new health scare or a new whatever, That is the problem that is being created. And then ask yourself, with the solution that they want and the problem that they created, what kind of reaction are they expecting of people? And then do everything in your power to not react that way. Whatever comes next, do not comply. Do not comply. Because, my friends, you see this here? Here it is. It's time to be free. It really is. And that is a verb. We need to do freedom. We need to do freedom on all levels. Thank you so much, Miss Patchouli. Love the name. Thank you. Really appreciate. I will play the song that I wrote called "Time to Be Free" for you in a second here. But I want to thank everybody from all over the world who've ordered their "Time to Be Free" shirts or hats or tanks or whatever. It supports our work and it sparks great conversations. I've already had great conversations wearing this t-shirt. So thank you. It's available for another 14, 15 hours or so. So links in the description, get your Time to Be Free shirt. And thank you for supporting our work. And now let me pull up, to actually find it here, let me pull up the song that was inspired really, by the Great Spirit, and that inspired this t-shirt. Hold on. I think here we are. All right, my friends, this is coming on in a second. Enjoy. Thank you so much for tuning in. We love you. We appreciate you. We'll be back with you again very, very soon. Must be something in the water or something in the air. I can feel it getting stronger. The sounds are all there. It's written in the stars. It's printed in the sand. It's a whisper getting louder, a whisper in the wind. It's time to be free. It's time to be free. From the east to the west, from the south to the north, there's a beautiful awakening. It's time to be free. I can see it in the faces of strangers walking by. Not a word that is spoken, just a spark in their eye. A spark that lights a fire deep down in their soul. Ain't nothing that can stop it once that wave starts to roll. It's time to be free. It's time to be free. From the east to the west, from the south to the north, there's a beautiful awakening. It's time to be free. It's time to be free. From the east to the west, from the south to the north, everybody sing with me. It's time to be free. It's time to be free. From the from the south to the north, there's a beautiful awakening. It's time to be free. It's time to be free. From the east to the west, from the south to the north, there's a beautiful awakening. It's time to be free. It's time to be free. It's time to be free.